Okay, so recently I got a promotion in my latest job. I can't tell you the name of the company or what we do, but I just wanted to say some things that are some pretty serious issues about it because there are some major issues about how the previous team leaders were doing things and they were not following processes or doing anything remotely right. So, they didn't like that much. So, the new wave of team leaders that are coming in, we went through training where there's this whole thing of it's a global company and there are global guidelines on how to operate and what processes you should be following and what you should be doing, which none of the previous team leaders were doing. And also, 56% of the whole of the company are failing on terms of standards as a result of the team leaders that were not telling anyone how to do anything or remotely being able to manage their teams. So, pretty major problems. And then comes the new wave of team leaders, where we were barely shown the global processes in terms of training, but we weren't shown all of the back-end administration and all of the other things that you have to do, or how to do remotely any of the administration stuff that you need to do in terms of the company. So, it was also a big mess in terms of the training where when you were due for the training, no one told you where you were meant to be. You had to chase up people to get to the training. And then eventually you get into the training, which it turns out goes one day later because they didn't set anyone how to get into the actual training that you're meant to be invited into. So you do that, you do 2 weeks of the global standards training, which is just, these are the global standards and when you're meant to do them and all of that, which again, none of the previous team leaders remotely did or followed. So, they are that great. And also, then you're told, oh, this is going to be your start date after the training. Comes to that date, you've got none of the permissions you need to even be able to do your job. You've got none of the access. You can't do anything. Your new manager is nowhere to be found, and the one that's listed on your profile isn't actually a manager. And you ask them, and they're like, well, I'll find out for you. And then they don't respond to you. And then you keep chasing things, and you get some things fixed by the end of that first day. And then the second day, you're like, well, I still haven't been given my team or any of this. And then it turns out you were meant to be in repeated product training for another 2 weeks, which you'd already done when you first joined the company. So pointlessly, you're going to sit through all of the same stuff again for another 2 weeks rather than being able to do your job. And because we didn't tell you you were meant to be in this yesterday, which they didn't tell any of the team leaders, and a couple eventually got in at the end of the first Monday. I didn't get in until halfway through the Tuesday because I was chasing things in a different way to some people were chasing things, but no one actually got invited to the proper training at all. And then there were still others that didn't do that and didn't get told and didn't get invited. So they had to do it 2 weeks later even still. Because that's how much of a mess it was. Anyway. So they were initially going to tell me, no, you can't do it for another 2 weeks. But then I'd have had to sit 2 weeks with nothing to do. Which would have been boring as heck. So, and I already know the products because I've been working on it for, almost a year now. But, yeah. Besides that, complete mess, complete and utter situation. Eventually managed to get into the extra training we weren't told when we weren't actually getting our team and we were supposed to be going live with being team leaders, but we weren't. And then 2 weeks after that, when we actually get our team, again, huge mess. None of the other team leaders have access or anything because they weren't chasing all of that, whereas on the Monday that I was thinking I was supposed to start, I chased up all of the permissions I needed to get, still didn't have all the permissions I was meant to have. Humongous mess with all the team leaders not having any of the permissions they were meant to have, still existing 3 weeks after we've all started, still many of the other team leaders don't have any of the accesses they're meant to have. I only do because I had to chase it up through every means possible to get my access. But that's not the issue that's the major issue. The major issue is that the teams we were given. So the previous team leaders that don't follow any of the processes, ignore all of their teams, don't give them any sort of training or help, and just let them all fail all of the quality standards so that the whole company is a mess and failing in terms of everything. Those team leaders, they decided, what would be best to give all of the brand new team leaders? We could give them some brand new agents that are fresh out of training, but instead we could also give them all of our worst agents off of all of our teams instead, and then we'll just have all the new agents and we'll fuck them up just as bad as we fucked up the entire company already, and we'll just throw all of our problems onto the brand new team leaders. Without telling them how to handle everything, expecting them to know all the situations and demanding they do all of the paperwork and basically fire individuals. And oh yeah, we'll also change all of the processes so that everything's actually different to you've just been trained in terms of timeline standards where things are. And then yeah, so brand new team for me, which isn't a brand new team because they're all the existing agents that were the worst. They literally picked their worst agents. They discussed it openly in a team leader chat before deciding this. First day, one of the phone calls from one of the team leaders, and he's like, "Well, I knew in advance who's going to be on your team because I set it all up for you and I knew exactly who you were getting." And that's like, well, you know, thanks for that. You deliberately set and picked out all of the worst agents for me. And literally, I got the worst of the worst of the worst. So, you know, this person that phoned me up to basically tell me, at least he phoned me, because I've got from 4 different team leaders, 3 of their worst agents from their teams. And this one is the only one that phoned me up to remotely tell me any handover note to say, you know, these are the things for these agents. You know, the other ones, I have to go through all of their records and read all of their stuff. One agent, long-term sick, and they're telling me, oh, I'll process it for you. I'll make sure he's processed as a leaver because he has to be leaving. Didn't do that, did he? Did not do that. So, you know, he's supposed to be processing this guy as a leaver. Apparently he's processed this guy as a leaver. He tells me all of that. And then the next week it's like, well, why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? Where's this form? Where's all that? And then, you know, it's like, oh, we'll process him as leaver in 2 weeks' time. And then, oh, why haven't you done this thing that you didn't know existed? And why haven't you done that? And why haven't you extended that? And why haven't you filled in this paperwork? Oh, can you tell me why this person isn't... What's going on with this person? And then all this nonsense and bullshit from all the other departments in terms of this one person that I was told, oh, don't worry, I'm handling it all. I'll do it all for you. Did not do shit. And then I have to get it in the ear and in the neck and constantly being badgered about this bollocks to do all of this shit and research all of this nonsense in terms of stuff that I have no clue about because it really shouldn't have been given me into this state to literally fire this person instantly. No, that shouldn't have happened. But, you know, if it was just one, that'd be fine. But I've still got another long-term effect that then I also have to keep getting into welfare discussions who, you know, again, shouldn't have been handed to me in this state. So I've got 10 times more stress and 10 times more paperwork in terms of filling out forms that we haven't been told existed and all of this other bollocks that we haven't been trained. Yep, that's that. Then there's another one who is constantly skiving off and I have to keep filling out and getting into calls for return to work and also investigating all of his useless timekeeping issues. He's got some serious issues in terms of things and, you know, he's on a trajectory to also be being fired and, you know, he is basically at the risk of being homeless as well, so, you know, really should have been kept by that. And he's the only one that's in office because most of us are work from home and I'm a work from home team leader, and he's very unhappy about the fact that he's the only one in office and, you know, very, very vocally angry about that. And I just have to get it in the ear constantly from that guy as well on top of that. And then on top of that, there's another one who is literally breaking the law in terms of the Data Protection Act. I tell that agent they're not allowed to do that. And then they are like, "Ooh, my previous team leader let me do it, and so I must be allowed to do it." And it's like all this other bollocks of, I won't listen to you. My other team leader told me I'm allowed to break the law, or I'm allowed to not do this, I'm allowed to not do that. 56% of the company are failing company standards. Not only company standards, it's literally the global standards and also the client, because we work for another client and the client is hiring us to do the thing. And again, I'm not allowed to provide specific details about what and who and the companies, but needless to say, 56% of the company is failing because previous team leaders are just like, we don't give a shit, we're not going to make you do anything, we're just going to let you do whatever the heck you like. You can break the law, you can just ignore the standards, you can do everything you want. No. You have to, I'm here to help you and to guide you into doing the right thing. So if I'm telling you that, for one, I'm not going to let you break the law, I'm not going to let you break global data protection acts, GDPR. Nope. Well, it's general data protection act or whatever, No. And I'm security trained. I have literal certificates and training to literally be able to say you are definitely breaking the law in terms of that. And other people who the brand new team leaders also agreed that that was breaking the law. But yeah. And then my manager goes, I've spoken to them and I'm going to give them permission as long as they just delete at the end of the day. No! You are overruling me to allow them to still break the law. No. And then, when I mentioned that the next day to my manager, and they're like, oh, but initially she told me she was just this and this, but it turns out it was actually more, so I'm not actually doing that. It's like, well, you shouldn't message me in the first place saying that you're going to overrule it and give them permission to break the law. No. That is not on. You can't give permission to break the law. Oh, but it's okay as long as they delete it at the end of the day. They can keep the duplicate copy that literally goes outside the guidelines and keeps everything off of the database and saved on their own email address. Instead, when no one can check anything and, comply to standards. Oh, it's fine, as long as they transfer it onto the correct system at the end of the day and then delete that copy. No, that is still breaking the law. So, yep, that's one of the issues. And then there's just a whole bunch of the other agents which are also just going, oh, but my previous team leader said that we don't have to do this, and oh, well, it must be you making up your standards and your things because every other team leader has their own particular way of doing things. No, we have specific instructions that we have to follow in terms of the marking criteria, and if I'm telling you that something is not to that criteria, you need to adjust to the marking criteria so that we are passing the quality. There's a reason that 56% of the company are failing. It's because people are not following the criteria for the guidelines to pass the marking grade. So if I'm telling you something is being done wrong, it's not a good excuse to be like, oh, but my previous team leader said that is not the case. I can do it differently because my previous team leader never called me up on this. Yes, but I've been given the worst of the worst agents. Some of them have 23% quality scores. 23%, including the person that was specifically coming back to me and saying, oh, but my previous team leader said this is okay and I don't have to do that. You have 23% quality score on your latest monitor. You have failed to an immaculate standard. You've basically passed nothing. You basically had the automated messages go out and you failed everything else. Everything else but what the system automatically does for you. That is the standard to which you failed. I didn't say that to his face, obviously. But, it's literally impossible to get less than that because the 23% is the automated systems that automatically do it for you. You cannot possibly fail those. Everything else you have done wrong and you are being lippy back to me that I'm saying and trying to help you this is actually what you need to do. Oh, but my previous team leader never said. Well, there's a reason you're failing so much, isn't it? But don't we have to be a lot softer, and a bit more diplomatic and a bit nicer and blah 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 blah. But yeah, all of the agents that have got that goddamn awful and that insubordinate and ridiculous, and I have to try and deal with all of that. And then one that actually has been doing work and actually finishing, and again, most of them, throughout 2 months, they've basically done 13 cases between them all. Now, we're supposed to be doing 5 cases completed a week, and then, that's the minimum, because you get like 18 cases in every week. For the whole of 2 months, they had completed 13 through the whole team, and the team is 12 of them. That's about 1 case each. That is an average of 1 case each, and that's not acceptable, And just getting all this, and then again, all of their quality standards are really, really low. Some of them, it's because they haven't been shown anything, and they just haven't been helped and assisted. So those ones, I'm able to assist. Still get some pushback from some of them. It's like, just the instant you say, well, you shouldn't be extending this on your own, and actually the guidelines say that you should be handing that over in that instance, and then it's like, instant brick wall and barrier, and, they feel threatened just because you're saying, and trying to help them out, so they remember. It's like, I can understand that you might have done it wrong because you haven't been shown, but, really, this is what you should be doing in these instances. And then they're immediately on the defensive and be like, it's like, chill, take it easy. I'm just trying to help you out so that you'll pass the quality in the future and not make the same mistake. You have to be told at some point that after 14 days, if you haven't got all the stuff in correctly, you need to hand it over. You can't just be keeping extending and doing the things that will fail your quality and fail everything, because the client wants it handed back if it hasn't got everything in at that point, So yeah. And then another one that was applying to try and get Mondays off so that they could go and attend a course. And, the company was just like, nope, you can't do that. And then they wanted to quit as a result of that. So I had to be, it wasn't the hardest thing to do, to think of a solution that works for everyone. But, the previous team leader was like, don't give a shit, just let them quit. Whereas, they can use their annual leave to have the time off for the hours for the course, and, they may have 30 weeks that they need to attend the course, but, at the end of the year, when it's December, they'll get their annual leave, and then they can do that, and then they can work with the flexible agreements until then to have unpaid leave on the other Mondays up to the end of the year, so that they can attend their course. And, then we keep an employee, and we were drilled through the entirety of training that we shouldn't be getting rid of people so easily, because it costs the company over $4,500 to retrain and rehire someone in. And, if it's an agent that is actually completing the cases and actually has a decent quality score, which this agent, 100% quality on the latest quality, and also the most completed cases and the most booked in things to complete more cases. So they're actually doing the work and they're actually great, but the company wanted to just let them go easy just because the client won't let it be, need people to be doing cases on a Monday. It's like, where's the flexibility? Where's the attempt to try to make a situation that works for everyone, Because obviously if they're booking their annual leave, they can have a Monday off, right? And it's only a few weeks left of the year, because, there's going to be weeks that are off, and especially in December it's going to be quieter. So I think we can kind of work something out to keep the agent on board and do the things. But, long story short, I managed to solve the situation and keep the agent in and get them the thing. But the amount of pushback that I was getting from Bob as well, it's like, oh, we can't do that because, the client won't like that, and upper management won't like that. It's like, where's the attempt to win-win? Oh, but they turned down an offer, different offer, because they wanted to offer, instead of just having the Monday off so that they can attend the course on the Monday, their supposedly reasonable offer was to put them onto part-time hours, which meant they still had to work Mondays for 4 hours. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they would also work 4 hours. So they would lose half their hours, whilst also not getting to attend their course because they would have to be in working on a Monday during the course. So obviously that wasn't a reasonable alternative suggestion, was it? That was never going to be accepted, but they turned down our reasonable offer. So, we can't give them another because that would be unfair to everyone else. No, you didn't give them a fair offer, and you didn't give them a compromise that was a win-win for both you and the company, for them and the company. And it literally was 2 seconds that I could think of the solution that works. So, me saving the day, not trying to brag, but, I had to do everything. I had to get my own permissions to be able to do my job, and yeah. And then there's 2 more agents that are also on advanced processes to be progressed towards being fired because they're that bad. And basically, I'm just ignoring that for now because all of the nonsense that I've been having to go through. Basically, I've been getting non-stop calls dealing with the leaver, the long-term absence, and the person that has the timekeeping issues that I've not been able to do my actual job because I keep getting non-stop calls from every other department to be handling all of this stuff that I shouldn't have been given them in this state. No brand new team leader should be given agents in this state. So, yeah, that's been highly, completely stressed. Anytime I tried to take a break or a lunch, someone else phones you up and you get dragged into another phone call to have endless discussions. What we're supposed to be doing is spending 80% of our time on our team, and 40% of that is supposed to be following the specific special processes. But instead, 90% of my time is being dragged into stupid phone calls to deal with stuff that really should have been kept by the previous team leader. If they're in these disciplinary processes, and if they're in the middle of being processed to be fired, they should have been kept by their previous team leaders, not palmed off onto a brand new team leader with no instructions. You have to research it all yourself to find out what the heck's going on with these people. And then also, you've never been taught how to find all of the forms, where to find all of the forms, what to do with them. Every single process that you're meant to be doing in regards to disciplinary and following all of these things, none of that's been trained to us, not remotely. But you have to be doing it, and then you're constantly chased and badgered. Why haven't you done this? Where is this thing? What's going on with this person? Why haven't you done this thing? Oh, you've been told that they've been fired, and you've got a resignation letter from them on their DMS, but that's not actually a resignation letter because it hasn't been attached to it, and then so they're not being processed as that, and all this other bollocks to do with all of them, and it's just like, what a mess. What a mess. So I've been completely stressed for the last 3 weeks because no brand new team leader should have this thrown on them and expected because, all of this should have been handled by the previous team leaders. But yeah, utter bollocks and stress. But I managed to get rid of the process levers. My manager said, well, that's all done now, at least with the process team leader, so you don't have to do anything with that. Oh, but now you might have to do this email to them. Oh, you might have to also do... It's done means it's done, not there's more stuff to do with that. You can't tell me, oh, at least that's done now and you don't have to worry about it. But now you also need to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. No. The whole point was, I'm highly stressed and you've given me too much bollocks that I shouldn't be given instantly and expected to do as a brand new team leader. And we've got no support structure, nothing. It's just like, you're on your own, you do it. No more training, no experienced team leader to tell you, you just do it. And it's like, all of this stress and all this bollocks. So yeah. But, supposedly that process leave has finally been done, even though it seems like there's going to be more stuff that they're telling me that I actually need to do on top of that, which is, not done then, is it? Managed to, because I had to complain because this isn't fair or right, get the one that keeps skiving off and has timekeeping issues swapped to another team. New agent, who knows, it's probably going to be equally as problematic, but I've still got 90% of the other problems. The one that was breaking the law, that my manager has given permission to break the law, I wasn't keeping that one on my team. No way, because I'm not going to be the team leader responsible for someone that is breaking the law. So that person's been switched onto another team as well, and I've got another agent coming in from that. But again, you know, who knows if it's more of the worst of the worst of the worst or what. But, you know, specifically been set up to have the worst of the worst of the worst agents and expected to handle it. You know, it's not right. Some of them, they're just not being spoken to or treated by their previous team leaders the right way. So a lot of my agents are like, you're an amazing team leader. I've never been helped like this before. No one's ever took the time to actually help me out. You know, so yeah, the one that I managed to get the flexible request so they could get their Mondays off so they could go study their course whilst keeping their job. They're very thankful. They think I'm a great team leader. There's one that just doesn't get listened to at all in their previous team leaders and no one takes the time to help them. They also thank me very much for being an amazing team leader for them. And yep, there's another one that also says that I'm a fantastic team leader because I, again, am listening and helping them out in terms of the qualities that they've not been ever shown before. And then there's 2 or 3 more that just have never been shown any of the processes that, you know, I'm trying to help them out. And also, you know, one of those ones have also said that I'm a good team leader. The others, you know, I don't know what they think, but they haven't said anything specifically back. But again, they just haven't been shown how to do the job properly. And then the others are pretty much like, well, my previous team leader didn't tell me that. And, you know, there's a lot of pushback, but I think I'm slowly getting through to them. But yeah, this company is a mess. This company is a mess. How does it survive like this? You know, there's huge failures in terms of quality, huge failures in terms of teaching their team leaders, and also the previous team leaders. They get a 3% bonus if they beat certain quality scores, which is their motivation for passing the shittest of their team onto the brand new team leaders. Because if they get rid of the quality problems and palm them off onto the new agents, then they get their bonus and pay rise at the end of the year. And it's not their problem. So that's why they gave all of their worst team lead. They're all, I keep saying team leaders in every aspect, all of their worst agents onto the brand new team leaders. Because they want to boost their numbers by getting rid of the agents that they have failed to help and failed to do anything with, because they are awful team leaders that do not know the processes. They never do the corporate global processes. Most of them don't do the global processes, but we're expected to follow the global processes and do everything right. And it's like, yeah, it's just been a lot of stress as a result of it. But yeah, very poorly handled. One day I might tell you the company name while I'm still working for there. I can't right now, you know. But I needed to say just how awfully the company have handled things in terms of everything, and also allowing that to happen. You know, allowing the existing team leaders to go, oh, we're just going to give all of the worst of our agents to the brand new team leaders and just tell them, hey, it's your problem now, deal with it, without training, without help, and just like, you know, take over all these things that we really should have kept, because these agents should have been kept by their existing team leaders. They never should have been passed to brand new team leaders in this state. And the only reason they've done that is their motivation, so that they can get their 3% bonus, because it will boost their numbers. So, yeah, that's what's going on. It's not right. It is not right. But anyway, I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.